South Africans are not cowards. People don't understand. They say, this one guy in a live said, "You guys have never been in a military dictatorship. That's why you can call us cowards." I'm like, bro, our government has been doing that. These people who like saying South Africans are lazy and don't work hard and whatever and all kind of things. We are literally the most successful black people in Africa. Like, look it up. We're the most successful. We house the most number of millionaires, 100 millionaires. These countries that are calling us lazy. If they are housing people that are hard workers, why isn't it shown in the statistics? Why don't we see Malawi being the #1 successful people? Why do we not see it as? Why do we not see Zimbabweans being the most successful people, Nigerians being the most successful people? Why don't we see this thing happening? You know, why is it whenever we look at who's the most successful, it's always South Africans? Any economy that is reliant on illegal immigrants, it is an economy that doesn't deserve to exist. So we are fixing our country, and there will be things like that, but those things can be fixed not by saying bring back the illegal immigrants, but by saying let the government release the funds. It's not actually true in the way that they put it, that there's a high rate of unemployment. It's the fact that more people were now applying for jobs as opposed to before, where they were, they had just given up. Chidima knows she's supposed to leave, and there's no way she's going to be in this country. We're not going to allow it. But when you start seeing people now cussing her out and throwing things at her bodyguards, hitting them with things and whatever, I think that stuff is very, very unnecessary.
On today's episode of the Lyonga show, we're going to be receiving a South African brother. This is actually going to be the second time. The very first time he came on the show, the review, this was him.
The problem is every time we fight these white monopolists, every time we fight these white businesses, it is the illegal immigrants who take the jobs. When Singapore invested in human capital, the economy improved. Why is it that Nigeria is the only country on the planet that when they invest in human capital, as they claim, where they have all these skills, but for some reason the economy does not improve, in fact it gets worse? Where they get this idea that we are lazy is when we boycott the white monopolists or the white supremacists who disrespect us, and the white people tell them, well, you guys are hard workers, come and work for us, these guys are lazy. When my daughter gets kidnapped by a Nigerian, or my son is sold drugs, forced into drugs by Nigerians, I'm not going to go and attack my white neighbor who's just trying to live life and then say to the Nigerian, oh no, we're brothers, hey, one Africa, one. That's not going to happen. We have had enough of Pan-Africanism in this country.
And a lot of you enjoyed his interview so much so that I think the interview had about 5 million accumulated views on all platforms. Yeah, so we are bringing him once again for another fine edition. Now we're going to be talking about the immigration crisis in South Africa, and then the fact that there is an unofficial new deadline which has been set up by the anti-illegal immigration civic group, the March and March, for undocumented foreign nationals to leave South Africa. And this deadline in question is September 30th, 2026. And then it's been 2 months since some foreign nationals left South Africa. So it's going to be giving us the update. How is South Africa now? As South Africans get on the job, we'll talk about the skills, talk about the challenges, and, all this and lots more. You know how it happens, right? So you stay with us. Do not go anywhere. Let me introduce today's guest. Hello, Hateb Bradley.
How are you, my sister?
I'm good. I'm doing well. And you? How are you?
I'm fantastic. I'm doing great.
Right. So now let's talk about the SADC summit real quick, and the fact that the March and March, like South Africans are protesting. We saw them I think they went to Durban because the summit is being held in Durban. So they went there and they were asking all the SADC members to make sure that they repatriate all their citizens, especially undocumented, from South Africa. What's your opinion?
My opinion on that is, I think it's a real pity that that meeting had to happen. I think it should be at least standard for every country to enforce law and order. The fact that it took South Africa to there had to be an entire meeting for us to talk about countries enforcing their own laws and the international immigration laws. It's quite a pity. That had to happen,
Mm-hmm.
But I really hope that after the meeting that countries will be more stricter in terms of how they deal with their citizens or how they treat their citizens, so that that people don't run everywhere but home, But I really think it's a pity that in Africa we're having these types of debates, these types of conversations and things like that, about people running away, people staying home, people immigrating illegally, and you're called a xenophobe for just wanting law and order. But yeah, that's my take on that.
Okay, very well. And then let's talk about the new deadline, the new unofficial deadline. We're looking at September 30th, 2026. Now, did you agree? Do you second this?
Yeah, no, I agree with the deadline. I agree with every deadline that they give to illegal immigrants.
Okay.
And we saw the success of 30th of June. Many illegal immigrants left. Many countries sent what you call buses. They sent airplanes and things like that. Many people left, and many people got jobs. Many South Africans got jobs. Many South Africans were able to start businesses. Like here where I live, once these tuck shop mafias left, people were able to rent out those places and start their own businesses. Like people are opening decks now and selling on the side of the road. So at least now a lot of our poor people have a fighting chance, to start over, to be able to be successful in their lives.
Well,
so I think it'll be very successful because this will be the second deadline. I think it'll be very successful because now the people that are left, more of them are going to leave. So there's still a lot to be done. But yeah, I'm happy with the deadline.
Okay. Now, still talking about the deadline. The very first one, I think the Minister of Justice, right? She said that South Africa has been able to repatriate or evacuate about 75,000 foreign nationals. How do you feel about that news? Let's talk about the statistics. How do you feel? 75,000, that is a whole lot. That's a lot.
Yeah, it's a good because it's a lot. But I last I heard that there were what, millions of foreigners in the country, So we still have a long way to go. 65,000 is a lot, but it's not 100,000. It's not 200,000. It's not 500,000. It's not a million. You get what I'm saying? Okay. So yeah, I would like to hear about millions of illegal immigrants being deported. That's what I want to hear. But I'm glad there's some kind of progress. I'm glad to hear that.
Okay. Now, while you were talking about the success of June 30th, right? A lot of South Africans, after that day, we've seen them complain about not being employed. Now, I think during one of the news edition, it should be ENCA, something of that sort, even Newsroom Africa, they did say that there's now a high rate of unemployment in South Africa. How true is that? Tell me.
It's not actually true in the way that they put it, that there's a high rate of unemployment. It's the fact that more people were now applying for job as opposed to before where they were, they had just given up. But now that they hear that illegal immigrants are being deported and there are more vacancies in companies, more people were actually now applying for jobs, etc. So there's a higher number of applicants, not a higher number of unemployment. It doesn't make sense that when illegal foreigners are deported and there's now vacancies, all of a sudden there's unemployment. That doesn't make any sense. And there are many people who reported came to the forefront and reported that they now have jobs. They've been looking for jobs for years. They're looking for a job for years. They're now working. So more people were sending in their CVs, et cetera, looking for jobs. That's what happened. So people always twist the truth. They will always twist what was reported and make it sound like there's more unemployment when really there's just more people applying for jobs.
Okay. But then let's talk about the foreign nationals who had businesses, who were entrepreneurs, and they owned like maybe small shops and or whatnot, and they had employed most of the South Africans. So now them leaving, it means there was a high, they created unemployment, right? And then we saw a lot of these unsatisfied South Africans, this disgruntled, I think young women, yes, they were, protesting, and they said that you people should allow the foreigners to stay, whether they're documented or not, because most of them were serving, most of them were working under them. So their leaving means no job for them.
You see, this is the problem. There's something, I forgot what they call it. It's called as an economic shock or something like that, where there are so many illegal immigrants occupying important positions and important having these businesses and jobs that shouldn't be theirs in the first place. So that when these people leave, there will be that economic shock, an economic standstill, because it's not like they leave today and boom, tomorrow everybody has a job, or boom, tomorrow everybody has a business. And you remember, these people are not being looted, their money's not being taken, nothing is being taken. They're being given their money back, they're being given the products that they were selling back. So now these places are empty, and the people who are working there do not have the capital to start those businesses themselves. So that is a process that we're still working on. Even I'm still working on a process whereby I'm helping South Africans get funding so they can occupy these places where illegal immigrants had not occupied. So it's not like now our people are now, standing, or sitting still, and they don't want to work or whatever, and they were being given jobs by, foreigners. One commenter said that any economy that is reliant on illegal immigrants, it is an economy that doesn't deserve to exist. So we are fixing our country, and there will be things like that, but those things can be fixed not by saying bring back the illegal immigrants, but by saying let the government release the funds. Because even now there's an investigation on some of the funds that were supposed to go to these tuck shops, like 500 million that were supposed to go to tuck shops, and we don't know what happened to those funds. That institution is now being investigated to ask what happened to the funds that were supposed to go to these to Black South Africans, or South Africans in general, that were supposed to start these tuck shops. So we're investigating that, and we're taking them to court. I think SACR is taking them to court to investigate that matter, so that the government should release the funds and fund people who want to start these businesses, who want to start these tuck shops, because they will be South African, so those businesses will be legal. So we cannot have an economy that is reliant on illegal immigrants, where illegal immigrants now start businesses in our country, as if our country doesn't have laws. So if our economy is reliant on that, then maybe it needs to die for a while, and we resurrect it and do things the right way, the lawful way. You get what I'm saying? But our economy is not dying. It's just an economic shock for now, because so many of our positions and so many businesses were occupied by these illegal immigrants, and it's not going to happen in a day. So we are fixing these things, and we are asking and demanding questions from the government. Where are these funds? Where is this capital that was supposed to go to South Africans? So those businesses will be restarted. They might be slightly different, but they will be occupied by South African citizens. And so it will be fixed. It's not like now we need to bring them back, knowing very well that these people were destroying our people. They were selling poisonous products. They were bribing our little kids, sleeping with underage kids, minors, 9 and 10-year-olds, and then bribing them with sweets and things like that, unaliving our people. Now we're saying, oh my God, we need to bring them back because at least they were hiring us. That's not how it works. When you don't have a document, you can get away with crime. You can do whatever you want, and then you can run away. The cops look for you. You run away. You run away to the next country. 2 years later, you come back. You committed that crime because you weren't documented before. You're not documented now. No one knows you. You go to a new city. No one knows you. You start over again. So we can't have this kind of lawlessness happening in this country in the name of at least people are working. Those people can be funded. If they've been working there for years, they can be funded, and that business can belong to them. But we're not going to have businesses that are owned by illegal immigrants in the name of, they're giving our people jobs. No, they must do it the right way. They must have the 5 million investment if they want to contribute to the economy. We have no problems with that, but you must go through the proper channels in order for you to contribute to the economy.
Okay, very well. Now, the fact that a lot of these foreign nationals live, let's talk about Nigerians, right? Most of them, they were married to South African women. Unfortunately, upon them leaving, they never left with their wives and children. Now, this has made many South African women single mothers. What's your comment on that? How do you feel?
Well, they should have, I'm going to be cruel and say that they should have thought about that before. What are you doing marrying an illegal immigrant? And I myself once had a thing for this one Mozambican girl, beautiful cutie pie, and she kept smiling and flirting with me, but I had to let go of that because I knew the consequences of that. If she was, because she was selling, she's gone now. She was selling Skambani. I don't know if you know what Skambanis are, Bunny Chows. So I figured, oh, if she has this small shop and she's selling Bunny Chows, then she can't be here legally. And I'm part of organizations that deal with this kind of stuff. So I understand the complications that are going to come with me dating her, maybe us eventually getting married or whatever. I'd have to now fight for her to be in the country illegally, or she must go back and get her papers, and it's going to be just one big complication. So I had to forego that, and for the fact that a lot of these women were willing to make those kinds of to make those kinds of choices, knowing that for every bad decisions that you make, there's a consequence, means that they did not consider the country first. I always think ahead before I start thinking about who to date and whatever way. What kind of consequences is there for me dating this girl? And am I willing to sacrifice my country's sovereignty? Am I willing to embarrass my people that I have videos of me marching with people, evicting illegal immigrants, deporting them, and closing down their stores? Meanwhile, I'm dating an illegal immigrant. That's too much hypocritical. So I had to forego that. So Livona themselves, they had to think about the country first and not think about themselves first. For every action, there is a consequence. Unfortunately, it may not be nice, but we cannot sacrifice the country's sovereignty because somebody, because of their spouse and all of that. I mean, they had a choice to go back home with their lover and their kids and go live there, but they don't want to live there because they know a lot of those countries are not functioning well economically. So, yeah, that's
Okay.
yeah.
Should that isn't that a problem? Are you guys not supposed to be fighting for people who want to marry immigrants, be it illegal or legal, that's to fight for love, to make the process easier for you to marry whoever you want, no matter the country. Then through your citizenship, you can now grant them citizenship and legal stay. Because I believe that is actually a real problem in South Africa, that many women or many men, just and you are an example, maybe that was a woman for you, but you could not marry her because of the legal system in South Africa, or the administrative system in South Africa is so complex. And if you are afraid that if you do so, they'll call you a traitor, shouldn't that be part of what you are advocating for?
The problem with that is people will always find a way to sneak back into the country, and they will use things like love and relationships for them to sneak back in. It happens a lot in the US, where a girl finds a US citizen, marries him, and then brings her entire family to the US. And then now the US has to grant them green cards and citizenship, and all that kind of stuff. So they will use that as a way to sort of sneak into the country. This is why I'm saying it's not illegal to marry a foreigner. It's illegal to marry an illegal immigrant.
Okay.
So I believe that it should not be, our country should not suffer because of a relationship.
Correct.
Yeah. And personally, just one more thing. Personally, I was all for that relationship if she had her papers, if she would come back with her papers and everything was legal. I was all for that. But I'm also all for my country not being disrespected, So, I mean, yeah, we need to think about these things before we make decisions.
Very well.
Because there's a country we need to run.
Right. Now, let me ask you this question. Considering the number of Nigerian men who have children with South African women, do you someday believe that a Nigerian might be the president of South Africa?
Yeah, it's a possibility. We've all been discussing that. But I think given the patriotic sentiment that has risen recently, unless the person adopts the accent and completely does away with all their, Nigerian names and just adopts a South African names and South African accent, I don't see that happening anytime in the future, because South Africans have been very hard pressed on patriotism and our country being run properly the way it's supposed to run, and also South Africans from this point forth are actually demanding to be ruled by someone who believes in law and order, someone who is a patriot. So even if that person were to appear, and they have the names and they have all their documents or whatever, they would have to be patriotic. So even they would actually have to contribute to what we are trying to do in this country. So even if you're going to argue, well, he's Nigerian by origin, if he were to become a naturalized South African, he would have to be extremely patriotic, because now South Africans don't want to hear nothing anymore. If patriotism is not at the forefront of the political party that wants to rule, then South Africans don't want to hear it. So yeah, it is a possibility, but it's going to come with its own little nuance.
Mm-hmm. Now, let me take you back to the June 30th evacuation, yeah? The deadline. Do you think that South Africans were ready? Now, we're talking in terms of skill, we're talking in terms of work, the labor market, because we've seen a lot of company owners, like entrepreneurs, employers, who later on complain that most of the South Africans were not ready. They cannot do the job properly. I think we even saw a couple of videos of the South African delivery men who were employed. Some could not even ride the bikes the right way. Others started eating the food they were meant to deliver, to their clients and every other thing. And social media, people were laughing and everything. And they said, oh, the economy is going to crumble and all. Now, the question is this, once again, do you think people were ready? Let's talk about the transfer of skills and knowledge. How ready were you?
Yeah, I think there is a problem on the employer side. Because what are you telling me that you can't find anyone that can ride a bike properly? Are you telling me you can't find anyone who does not compromise their jobs and eat on the job and things like that? I know many people here in the ghetto, just in my ghetto alone, who are very, very desperate for jobs and are willing to do whatever it takes. I was offering, because I'm trying to start a business as well. I offered to employ a lot of them, and I gave them all the rules, and I told them, this is what you do. These guys are so desperate. They want a job. You want to tell me in this entire country, you can't find one person? You couldn't put up a post to say, I'm looking for someone who does this, this, and this. And if someone is eating on the job, you fire them. You fire them, you get someone who's serious, who's not going to do that. You don't go get an illegal immigrant from Nigeria. You find another South African. We have 60 million South Africans. You can't find one South African that's willing to do their job properly. I think personally, this is some kind of sabotage, or these people just don't know how to run a business. I know many people who know how to ride a bike. I know people who are professional bikers. I know people who can ride a bike who don't have jobs. They could have been hired for that job. So I don't understand how is it that me alone, I personally know many people, even don't go too far. My neighbor across opposite of me has numerous bikes. His kids ride bikes. Their friends ride bikes. And I bet you they know a lot of people that can ride bikes. And also, don't they teach these people how to ride bikes? I don't understand. Like, what kind of business is that? So now I don't understand why people want to resort to, we need the illegal immigrants back because at least they could do 1, 2, and 3. When there are so many other South Africans, they could have put that vacancy out there and say, we need people like this. You need to be able to do 1, 2, and 3, and say, okay, we need people for this job. I don't understand how that could happen. I really don't understand how you're a businessman and you can't find one South African out of 60 million people who can do their jobs properly. They should send those vacancies to me. I'll find the people for them.
Very well. Okay. Now, let's talk about June 30th again one more time. September 30th, the new deadline, yes. Now, a lot of these African countries, for example, Nigeria, have stopped evacuating their citizens. The evacuation process, they said no, they are no longer going to be evacuating. Ghana just evacuated their last batch. 50 Ghanaians were evacuated. I think every other country, they are not doing it anymore. So now the question is this: do you believe that September 30th is going to be successful, considering that many of these African countries, especially from West Africa, they have all backed down from the evacuation of their citizens from South Africa?
As in, they won't accept their citizens back anymore.
No, they said they are not going to pay for the repatriation flights. So everything, it's been aborted. Nigeria has stopped. Ghana is no longer doing, and then every other country. So now, looking at the new deadline, do you think that it's going to be as successful as June 30th? That's the first one.
Yeah, I think it's going to be successful. I think it's going to be I still think it's going to be very successful. Because these countries are running away from their responsibilities. People are going to be running all over the world being refugees. They're going to be running all over the world seeking a home because they're not even accepted in their own home. My thing is they shouldn't have ran in the first place. They should have learned from. They've been here long enough. They should have learned how South Africans do things, because this is not the first time, as I explained to you the last time. This is not the first time the South Africans are fighting for their country. They should have been taking notes. They were supposed to be taking notes and then going back home and then employing those same tactics. But they chose to stay here. And so if you're going to make those kinds of mistakes, life will teach you that you will suffer for your actions. You will suffer. If we as South Africans decided to go to Italy and do the things that they're doing, I promise you the Italians will treat us the exact same way. And they're not going to care whether our government accepts us or not. They're just going to want us out of their country. If we did it in UK, if we did it in America, and I know this because they're already doing it to our brothers and sisters, who are, by the way, some of them using our IDs in those countries and making us look bad. But I'm glad that some of the officials are actually double checking these things, investigating, and finding that a lot of these IDs are actually fake. But as South Africans, we know that there's consequences to your actions. This is why we don't make those fatal mistakes of go running to other countries whenever we have problems here. And by the way, these people who like saying South Africans are lazy and don't work hard and whatever and all kind of things, we are literally the most successful Black people in Africa. Like, look it up. We're the most successful. We house the most number of millionaires, 100 millionaires, as in the 100 millionaire margin, the most number of millionaires. So what are people? So we are the most successful Black people in Africa. We're the third most successful Black people in the world after Black Americans and Afro-Brazilians. We are the third most successful. So I don't understand what people mean and are trying to say when they say Black South Africans are lazy, they don't want to work. And I struggle to understand it, because these countries that are calling us lazy, if they are housing people that are hard workers, why isn't it shown in the statistics? Why don't we see Malawi being the number one successful people? Why do we not see it as? Why do we not see Zimbabweans being the most successful people, Nigerians being the most successful people? Why don't we see this thing happening? Why is it whenever we look at who's the most successful, it's always South Africans?
Okay.
So,
Now
I don't understand what people mean when they say that. But
prior to this interview, there's this video this very interesting video that I stumbled on. I mean, it's now everywhere on the internet, where this employer was saying that South Africans are very, very lazy. That when you employ a South African, he shows up late for work, and sometimes they come with white powder. And then when you question them, they'll tell you, I am in my country. You can't do me anything. I can do as I please. So now, what do you think about it? Because, they always say that there is no smoke without fire, so.
Where are these places? Because I don't remember I don't remember working. I used to work too. I don't remember working and feeling like I can do whatever I wanted. If anything, I felt at work, I felt like I was in a prison. I felt like I couldn't do whatever I wanted. I had to do my job, and I did my job. And when I was, tired of working there, I left and I, started my own businesses and stuff like that. So I don't know where people get these places where people are hired and they can do whatever they want and they can bring powder and be lazy and whatever. I don't know what these people are talking about. I think this stuff is just propaganda, because they're trying to get us to bring back the illegals, and money talks. Anyone can be paid and be told to say, no, say this and say that. Like I said, the statistics will show you who's the most successful. I don't believe that nonsense, man. If someone doesn't want to do their job, fire them or give them a warning, fire them, and then put out vacancy papers. Tell people there's a vacancy here. We need people to work. If these people are struggling to find proper workers, they must speak to me. They must DM me. If you have access to them, tell them to DM me. I'll find them proper workers, because I already immediately can spot the people and I know them because I've seen them work. I already know in my neighborhood alone many people that I can hire if I were to have a business. I don't understand, where is all of this coming from? How did we become so successful if we are lazy? If you employ lazy people, that's on you. I don't understand what these people. No, they must DM me. I can find workers for them. They must DM me. Seriously.
But then
Because I don't know what these people are.
let's talk about this. Even Cameroon, we have very lazy set of people. There are a lot of Cameroonian employers who have employed people who later on turned out to be very incompetent. You know, they were not even efficient with their work and everything, and they were laid off. Now, even in Cameroon, there are a lot of poor people. There are people who live in slums and every other thing. Why is it that when it has to do with South Africa, it's like every other person is expecting too much? You know, they'll be like, oh, look at South Africa, some of them still do not have jobs. Oh, look at South Africa, some of them are still living in the slums. Oh, look at South Africa, some of them are this. Oh, what do you think is the problem exactly? Tell me. Because sometimes when I listen to these people talk, I'm like, bro, even in Cameroon, not everybody has a job. Even in Cameroon, we have power shortage, we have water problem, we have electricity problem. We don't have good roads. You see, we still have villages that, I mean, people are still suffering. There's some people who can barely feed. But then why are people making it look like South Africans are supposed to be 100%? You see, they're supposed to be living comfortably. They're not supposed to have any flaws. I still do not understand. Maybe if you do understand, please make it make sense to me, because I don't.
I don't know. I really don't know. That's why I'm saying it's propaganda, man. I think a lot of these people are paid to say these things, and they think that by saying this stuff, we're going to say, okay, bring them back. And it's not going to happen. We will find the South Africans that want to work. We will find them. Like I said, they must DM me. We will find them. I don't know what this propaganda is, because honestly, it doesn't make any sense. Every country has lazy people. If you hire people and they're lazy, fire them. Get people that are competent. That's it. It's that simple.
That's it.
Like you said yourself, there's villages, there's townships, there's other. I mean, I don't understand.
We have ghetto areas in Cameroon, bro. A lot. Our streets are littered with debt. I'm telling you, we have beggars on our streets. Even in our economic capital, even our capital city in Yaoundé, we have terrible roads. You see, but when it has to do with South Africa, people make it like it's a very big deal. Like, oh, South African people are suffering. Some of them are living in zinc houses. Oh, some of them don't have jobs. So look at, I'm like, make it make sense. Even in America, they have similar problems. Housing, accommodation problems. Some of them are suffering. There are a lot of Americans in America who are beggars. You know, there are some who are thieves. So why is that South Africa's case is so different? You know? Anyways, brother, now let me ask you this question. The South African government has repeatedly stressed that such civil group deadlines are unlawful. Now, we're talking about the September 30th, right? You know, at the SADC, your president did say that it is only the government that has the right to enforce immigration laws or deportation. So they are not in support of your deadline. And then that's not all. Your president equally, your president, sorry, one more time, sorry, please. And then that is not all. Your president, Cyril Ramaphosa, while addressing the regional leaders at the Southern African Development Community, we're talking about the SADC summit, he expressed deep concern and regret over the mistreatment of foreign nationals and emphasized that unlawful intimidation undermines regional unity. What's your comment?
You know, he's right if he's talking about intimidation. You know, and it was their mistreatment. Like I said before, yes, there was. I mean, let's not act like there are no xenophobic people. You get what I'm saying? So I'm sure there are, just like in Europe, in the UK, in Italy, in these things. Even them, when I spoke to them, and I said, when they were complaining about illegal immigrants, saying, why is it when South Africans are chasing illegal immigrants out, they're not called racist, but we are called racist? And I told them, what? They say the same thing about us, but they can't call us racist. They call us xenophobic or Afrophobic. And I said to them, but don't worry, you're not racist. You're just trying to fix their country. And you know what they said to me? They said, no, there are people who are racist and using this as an opportunity to express their racism, making monkey sounds and that kind of stuff. So there is, and this is a white lady an Irish lady telling me this, like, no. When you say there's no racism, that's not true. There is racism among them, yes. There are those who are using this as an opportunity now to express their racism. So even in South Africa, like you said, we're not different from other countries. We also have the same problems. We have people who are genuinely just xenophobic. Like the video that you shared once of those people who said they don't care whether the guy has documents for his business. They want him out. So you will get xenophobic people. Let's not pretend that there are no xenophobes. But the bottom line is that we want illegal immigrants out. There's nothing the xenophobes can do about that. There's nothing the xenophobic people who hate Nigerians just for being Nigerian, who hates Malawians just for being Malawians. Just like the racists can't do anything about you if you're in Ireland legally. They can't do anything about you being in Italy legally, about you being in Belgium legally. They can hate you all day, but they can't do anything about it legally, or they will get arrested. Same as here. The xenophobes will get arrested if they act unlawfully, you know. So for the most part, most South Africans believe in law and order, and they just want people to be here with their papers, etc. But yes, there are those who will take advantage. So I do agree with the president that a lot of the stuff, the unnecessary intimidation, like the stuff, even the stuff with Chidima, some of the stuff I really don't like, you know, some of the ways that South Africans were acting around that whole thing. I mean, Chidima knows she's supposed to leave, and there's no way she's going to be in this country. We're not going to allow it. But when you start seeing people now cussing her out and throwing things at her bodyguards, hitting them with things and whatever, I think that stuff is very, very unnecessary. But I would also say the government needs to move quickly to solve the immigration issue, because it's going to get out of hand. And I think maybe they are actually hoping that it gets out of hand so they can have an excuse now to say, we're now going to bring out the police, or we're going to bring out the army. You get what I'm saying? So I do believe that there are people who are actually xenophobic, but those people need to be stopped on their tracks by what? By making sure that all these illegal immigrants are out of the country, so that these people cannot act out their xenophobia, just like the racists shouldn't be able to act out their racism, because the problem has now been resolved. So if you're an actual racist, we will see it. If you're an actual xenophobe, we will see it. This is why the illegal immigrants should leave, so that the ones who are remaining, if they still facing xenophobia, then we know now that, oh, actually South Africans are xenophobic. But as long as the illegal immigrants are here, the actual xenophobes will use that to their advantage.
Okay, makes a lot of sense. Now, now that you mentioned, or since you mentioned Chidima, let's talk about her case real quick. Now, she's fighting to stay in South Africa. She considers herself a citizen, despite the fact that the mother is a Mozambican while the father is a Nigerian. Now, the question is, what does it take to be a citizen, please? Can you clarify that for us, so those who are watching?
In South Africa, what I know is what is required is that at least one of your parents should be South African, you know? And I think by tradition, I'm not sure by law, I need to look that up, but by tradition, it's supposed to be your father, because according to African tradition, you follow your father. You know, if your father is Nigerian, you go to your father's land. If your father is Malawian, you go to Malawi, etc. But if your father is South African, then you are South African.
Right.
But according to the law, it's supposed to be at least one parent. Now, whether the law specifies which parent, I'm not sure about that, but it's at least supposed to be one parent. But I heard people saying none of her parents are South African. So even South Africans themselves were expecting at least one parent to be South African, whether it's the mother or the father. You said my mother is a naturalized, she's a South African. Her mother is from Lesotho, but she's a South African. She's a South African citizen, you know. So if that's the case, then that means that by law, at least one, even whether it's the mother or the father, one of them is supposed to be South African. So Chidima is not a South African, but according to the law, she's not a South African. According to tradition, she's not a South African. So I'm saying if Nigeria, because Nigeria, it seems like now Nigeria is rejecting her because how she's embarrassing them internationally, how she's fighting to be in South Africa. I think she should consider going to her mother's land, to Mozambique.
Okay.
You know, that's what I think about that. But yeah, no, Chadima is not South African, unfortunately. But I'm not going to act like I don't partially feel bad for her. I kind of do, but she's really not helping with this lack of humility. It's not helping. It's making it so much easier for South Africans to dislike her, you know? So yeah.
Okay. Now, her claim is that she was born here. So when you have been born in South Africa, does that automatically make you a citizen?
I don't think so. I think your parents have to be South African. One of your parents have to be South African. You become South African by fraud because of home affairs and them giving out citizens to just everybody. But I think one of your parents have to be South African. I'm not 100% sure, but the fact that they are, you know, she's going to court and things like that, and South Africans are fighting back, you know, with our own lawyers and things like that, means there is a case to be fought against her. However, the interesting thing about Chidima that some of our investigators, you know, because we have online investigators in South Africa, you know, have actually found photos of Chidima in Nigeria, you know, when she was a child, when she was young. And her father had done an interview saying that they arrived in 2010 and not the year that Chidima was supposed to be born. Funny with that, I saw a funny comment on someone saying, "Oh, maybe she meant she was born again in 2010. That's when she found the Lord." You know, you know. So yeah, but yeah, we found that. Huh?
That's a good one. Yeah, carry on.
Yeah, maybe she meant she was born again, not born in 2010. So yeah, so people are saying no, she's not. They have photos of her shared online. There's not a single photo of her being in South Africa at that young age, but there's photos of her being in Nigeria at that age. So people are saying she actually isn't even born in South Africa. So even if you're going to argue that if you're born here, you're a citizen, the argument from South Africans is not even that not anymore, that none of her parents are South African. It says she wasn't even born here. So yeah.
Okay, but now let's talk about her speech. I don't know if you watched her appearance yesterday at the Cape Town Regional Court when she was addressing the media houses that were present. She said that she feels like she's been targeted, and she calls the whole thing xenophobia. And then she further went on to say that we should, or you South Africa should be practicing Ubuntu. What's your comment on that?
Okay, so two things over there. She says she's being targeted. It's okay, three, I guess. Targeted, it's xenophobic, and we should be practicing Ubuntu.
Right.
First of all, it's not so much about Chidima as it is about what she represents. She represents lawlessness and she represents fraudulence, unfortunately, regardless of how old she was when she got here, because her parents got her here fraudulently. If Chidima wins this case and she's allowed to be here, more illegal immigrants will do that with their children. Literally, in Lesotho, when I told you when I was in Lesotho, I heard a Sotho man saying they want to give their kids citizenship. So they want to get their kids South African citizenship. I look at their kids. The kids are grown now. You know, one of them is a teen. I think the oldest one is 18, and then the other ones are like 14, maybe 10. And he was talking about how he wants to get them citizenship. Now I don't know how that's going to work. You know, and so this is what I mean. When you allow the Chidima thing to pass, like I said, I partly feel bad for her. But if I was if I was the Minister of Home Affairs or whatever, or part of the court case, and I was the judge or whatever, I still wouldn't grant her citizenship, regardless of how bad I feel for her because of what she represents. And it is her parents who are to blame, not South Africans, not South Africa. Her parents are the ones that screwed her over. And it's the Nigerian people and it's Mozambican people who are refusing to stand up to their governments that make it so that people don't want to live there. They want to run away and go to a country where people do stand up for themselves, and they want to reap the benefits from that country. As far as us being xenophobic, she'd have to prove that. She's certainly not proof that we are xenophobic because of how she got here. She's not proof that we are xenophobic. She needs to show us evidence of how we are evicting people, even if they're legal. And she must show that it's these organizations like March and March, etc. Don't show me ordinary citizens just acting out of pocket. That happens with every revolution. That happens everywhere. Show me where the organized, groups are doing that, evicting people just merely because they are foreigners, even if they are here legally. She must provide us with evidence of that. And as far as Ubuntu, she is in no position to preach to us what Ubuntu is. We are the ones that pioneered the Ubuntu philosophy. Why are people educating us on something that we pioneered? So we're not being an Ubuntu for chasing out people who have been harming our kids. Remember, this thing didn't start with just them being illegal. That we could handle. It didn't even start with them taking jobs. That we could handle. It was the crime and the disrespectful behavior that they displayed that made us realize actually there's a common denominator. All these people who are behaving like this, or at least most of them, are illegal. 60% of our crime is done by immigrants, by foreigners. What is that? And we're just supposed to say, no. Focus on the ones that are doing the crime and not the ones who are just doing their job. No, you are a criminal by virtue of being here illegally. By chasing out all illegal immigrants, we can drop the crime statistics but at least by 60%, because we know 60% of crime is done by foreigners, you know, and we know that if a South African is doing a crime, we can find that South African because they have their papers, etc., etc. We have their fingerprints and all that. If it's an immigrant, we know it's a legal immigrant, and we be able to trace them by virtue of the papers that they had when they got here. So we cannot allow for lawlessness anymore, because we're now compromising the safety of our country. So Chidima represents that. She represents lawlessness, whether she likes it or not. And it's her parents that let her down, and her fellow countrymen that let her down by being cowards instead of being brave and fighting for the country so that she can be proud. I think deep down, she really wanted to be in Nigeria. Deep down, Chidima, she wanted to love Nigeria. She wanted to be. But then it was just too much to handle. She couldn't handle whatever it is that she found when she got there. And she figured, I'm better off embarrassing myself or being humiliated fighting to be a South African than staying here. So, yeah.
So what if, she eventually fails? Because, I mean, her case has been adjourned, I think February 23rd or 27th, 2027. How do you feel about that? That has been pushed forward for next year.
How do I feel about her case being pushed forward?
Yeah, because South Africans are saying, why are you delaying? Why? You know she's not supposed to be here. What's the need pushing the case forward? February 27 is such a long time, Why don't you just tell her to go? Why don't you just deport her? You know she has no right to be in South Africa. So they feel like they're trying to, something fishy is going behind the scenes, like what's happening? Why are you delaying the process? She should just go almost immediately.
Yeah, and whatever it is that they're trying to do, I honestly don't know what they're trying to do. And whatever it is that they're trying to do is not going to work, because South Africans don't forget. South Africans do not, they're not going to forget this. Because this is like a new wave right now. I think this is bigger than Fees Must Fall at this point. It's bigger than Roads Must Fall. And those two movements were huge. This is bigger than even the Jacob Zuma thing, bigger than Marikana. This is huge, and it's never going to end. And it's all because of the disrespect, mostly because of the disrespect that made us now investigate a lot of this stuff, And so it's not going to, they can delay it all they want. It's not, she's going to leave. She's not going to live here. South Africans are not going to allow her to, because she represents lawlessness. If she is given a pass, everyone else will be given a pass. She's she's going to become the gateway to a lot of these people who want to come here. Just like I said with the whole marriage thing and whatever, they're going to use that as the gateway to get into the country. Even if we're going to say, yes, if you marry someone, they get citizenship and whatever, out of the goodness of our hearts, because, they're in love, etc. But now everyone else is going to see it as a gateway to come to South Africa, instead of them saying, no, you can't use love to go into a country unlawfully or whatever. Right. Let's fix our countries. They're not going to try and fix their countries. They're going to find these loopholes, the Chidimas and all this stuff to come into our country. So she's not going to win this thing, and she shouldn't win it either.
Okay. I just feel like even if she wins, let's assume that she does, I don't think she'll have a good stay in South Africa. I mean, look at the way, who is going to employ you? You will not be able to move freely. You will not be able to go to a restaurant. You will literally not be able to have a life in South Africa. So for me, I believe that, she should just go. Maybe she can be visiting, I don't know, something like that. But staying, I don't think she will have a great stay in South Africa. But then to each their own. Now let me ask you this, brother. There is a common behavior amongst South Africans where if they realize that you don't speak with a South African accent or have that Southern African phenotype, they immediately treat you differently. Now you hear them proudly say, we know each other, we know the way we talk and the way we look, so you can never be part of us. Is that not a big problem? Because we have seen many videos to that effect, and unapologetically from South Africans online from every class, many Africans find it a bit disturbing. What do you have to say?
That they treat you differently when you're South African as opposed to someone from another country.
I think it has to do with the accent, because even when Chidima she was reading her speech, because she was literally reading her speech, right? So many people were saying that you cannot say that you're born in South Africa because your accent, you don't sound like us. That is not, even when you pronounce Ubuntu, that is not how we pronounce Ubuntu. So that does not make you a South African. So because at times, right, it might seem to be like xenophobia, or that superiority that South Africans exhibit towards foreigners. Yes.
Yeah, see, I think the same thing is happening in South Africa that's happening in America with Black Americans, you know?
Yeah.
Black Americans, because of the influx of illegal immigrants going into America and disrespecting Black Americans, who are, by the way, the most successful Black people in the world, you know? Most number of billionaires, millionaires, etc. You can look it up, you know, and but you have this influx of Africans, illegal, sometimes even legal, going there, doing the same thing that they do when they get here, calling them lazy, disrespecting them, not appreciating their culture, etc., etc. And then now you find Black Americans actually just hating Africans, just for being just hating Africans. They don't care where you're from. Some of them have recently just realized that they have a lot more in common with South Africans because we get similar treatment as they do than they do with other African people. But then there are those who just don't care. I was going back and forth with this one Black American, and we were just, you know, going at it. Which is, you know, incidentally, it was on a video of a Black American agreeing with South Africans. But this one wasn't having it. They were like, nah, to hell with all Africans. I don't care about South Africa, da, 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 da. Just by virtue of the fact that we are in Africa, even though we're not bothering them. We're not going to America and doing all this stuff. I once asked them, because I once asked them, are we doing the same thing? Because if we are, you should chase us all out. I wasn't even saying that to defend South Africa. I was literally just saying, if South Africans are going there and selling powder and disrespecting you, please, for the love of God, chase them out because they were embarrassing us. But all of them said, nah, South Africans aren't doing any of this stuff. But they assume we're like everyone else because we're from Africa. It's mostly Nigerians, I think Ghanaians, I'm not sure about Zimbabweans, but it's mostly Nigerians, West Africans, and East Africans, Somalians especially, and Ethiopians that are disrespecting Black Americans. And so they just shun the whole continent. So it's the same here. South Africans a lot of them are beginning to have this sort of resentment towards African people, you know, and it's really, it bothers me a lot as well. You know, they're beginning to really resent African people just for being African. I remember I used to share a lot of achievements, and I still have them on my phone. I used to share like the achievements of Nigerians, the achievements of Black South Africans, Black Americans. This Black American invented this Nigerian invented that. I don't know how it will be received now. It used to be received very well. I used to get a lot of followers, and a lot of people are still following me because of that. But recently, I've been posting more patriotic things. I don't know how. I saw recently a Nigerian guy. I think he invented glasses for blind people, so they no longer have to use sticks. So I'm asking myself, should I share this? I don't know. Should I share this?
Right.
I don't know anymore. It's not even that I don't want to share it because I don't like it. I actually love that because it's a Black achievement. What I don't want is to see the comment sections and hearing South Africans saying, but they still don't have animals in their zoos, or but they still shitting all over their beaches, things like that. You know, that's what I don't want to see. I just want us to appreciate and celebrate Black achievements. That's why I studied African history. I studied Black history. You know, I want us to appreciate ourselves, you know, without having to do all these attacks and these things and whatever. This is why I'm saying I really hope this thing ends soon. I really hope these countries realize that they're destroying the image of Black people all over the world with what they're doing. And I don't blame South Africans for the resentment that they have right now. I just hope it doesn't escalate and get out of hand where now all Africans are going to be hated. You know.
Okay, very well. Now I'll have two more questions for you. Let's talk about Zimbabweans. How are they affecting you people? Because you know, of recent, I don't know if you saw Jacinta and the Machima, they were marching. They're trying to protest against the Zimbabwean president Emerson Mnangagwa's, you know, the fact that he has extended his mandate from 2028 to 2030. You know, I don't know if you saw it. They were marching and saying that no, we do not want this. You cannot be amending our constitution. And then he's saying no to democracy. Like Zimbabweans will not be able to vote for their president anymore. They're taking away that power from them. So, how do you feel about that? Let's talk about your relationship with Zimbabweans real quick.
I saw that. And are you referring to the 30th of July protest that was supposed to happen?
Yes, that's it. It did not. Yes.
Yes. And I really feel pity about that because all South Africans were actually excited about that, like literally. And it wasn't a matter of they must win and stop bothering us. There was a part, I mean, like I said, there are those South Africans, and then there are the ones they were this side that was saying, we genuinely want Zimbabwean people to be liberated so they can stop embarrassing themselves and stop embarrassing Black people all over the world, So Black South Africans were actually rooting for Zimbabwe to actually succeed. But unfortunately, the government came out and threatened everyone and sent out soldiers and police and whatever to make sure nobody gets out of their house, never mind goes out there to march. And so the march didn't happen, and it was unfortunate. And some South Africans laughed about it and were like, you guys are a bunch of cowards. Why aren't you guys doing this regardless? Now, I want to comment on the lady that led the wanted to lead the protest. That is a very brave woman. Like, she is so brave. And I honestly am proud of her, because it came to a point where they could no longer threaten her because she didn't care what happens with her. And they started threatening her family. And so because they were threatening her family, she now had to refrain from doing the protest. But if you listen to her when she was talking about that, it's almost like she was trying to send a subliminal message to Zimbabweans to protest regardless, even though she can't, out of fear of her own family being in danger. But unfortunately, Zimbabweans didn't. And one of the activists were actually Peggy something, I forgot the rest of his name. He was arrested, And South Africans literally have posters saying, free Becky, and they actually admire him for being the one brave Zimbabwean, I actually think that the lady's also brave, but yeah, hey man, it's unfortunate what happened. I really was hoping, and all they wanted was an audience with the government. They just wanted the government to hear them out, And but I guess some countries are different, man. But that would never fly here. ZANU-PF would never survive in this country. They would never survive here because South Africans are very stubborn.
Okay. Now, do you think that the South African government might probably someday say, you know what, no to democracy. South Africans, you no longer have the right to vote for your leaders. You will no longer vote for your presidents. We will decide in parliament. Do you think such a thing can ever happen in South Africa?
No, I say good luck with them. Good luck with that.
It can never happen.
Yeah, good luck. Good luck. I know South Africans. We were recently in my city.
Right.
We were in a shootout with Pakistanis, Well, not me. I'm not gonna act like I was carrying guns and being brave and shit. But I was part of the march,
Right.
I was watching while people were literally going on a shootout with Pakistani people, So South Africans are not cowards. South Africans don't mind dying for what they believe in. The government already tried to be a dictatorship. They were testing us with Marikana. Go check Marikana out. They were testing us. They wanted to see how we're going to behave. They unalived so many of our people there who were protesting and marching and demanding higher pay, and they got killed. And what happened? Damn near the entire country came out. I forgot, was it the next day or 2 days later or something? Almost the whole country came out. Condemning that and protested it, condemning. You listen to what South Africans were saying at the Fees Must Fall rally. They were face to face with the police saying, do to us what you did to people in Marikana. They were literally saying that to police. Do that to us what you did to people in Marikana. I'll find the video and I'll share it to you. I'll send it to you when I find it. They were literally, these were students, kids saying that. South Africans are not cowards. People don't understand. This one guy in a live said, you guys have never been in a military dictatorship. That's why you can call us cowards. I'm like, bro, our government has been doing that. They've been killing people. They've been killing mass people. And every time they do it, we go even crazier. You kill one of us, we go crazy. The whole country comes out.
Right.
So even now, Pakistanis are trying to tame us by killing some of our people, and we're getting even crazier. We haven't stopped yet. So I say good luck to the government if they want to be a dictatorship. Good luck with that. But this is not Zimbabwe. This is not Nigeria. This is not Malawi. We're not a bunch of cowards. We don't run. We stay and we fight.
Right. Amazing. Thank you so very much, brother. Thank you. It was an amazing interview. Do you have any last words? Anything you want to tell the population, to those who are watching?
I say to South Africans, guys, keep going. Let's keep pushing. Please support South Africa First Forum. Let's support Jacinta. Let's support March and March. Let's support SACR, South African Constitution Reform. Yeah, something like that. Let's support all these organizations, guys. get our people funding. Let's get our people, the businesses started. Let's not fall for the propaganda of our economy is falling because of this. That's nonsense. If our economies fall, let's find entrepreneurs. Let's fund them. Let's the same way we funded we fund people from other countries who are yeah. So yeah, that's what I'm saying. South Africans, do not give up, guys. Let's keep going. Let's keep fighting. We will fix this country.
Very well. Thank you so very much. Thank you. It was an incredible interview.
Okay, thank you, my sister.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, that brings us to the end of today's edition of the Daily English. Let me hear your thoughts on the comment section. Bye. Thank you.